Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. The race continues in Antigua and Barbuda to national immunity. This story takes the lead in today's edition of Caribbean Perspective for Tuesday, 5th October 2021. Details when we return.
Hubbard's big promotion is back. Live free for 1 year. Spend $50 or more in any Hubbard's department and receive a chance to win big prizes every month. Property or vehicle insurance for 1 year. Free internet, cable and data for 1 year. Free fuel for 1 year. Free cooking gas for 1 year. Free electricity for 1 year. Free drinks for 1 year. Extra cash account and the big free groceries for 1 year. Promotion runs from April 1st to September 30th, 2021. Live free for 1 year with Hubbard's in association with Solgas, Flow, Grenadian General Insurance, Carib Brewery, Coca-Cola, Grenada Bottling Company, Grenlec, Communal Cooperative Credit Union, Dutch Lady Milk, Promo, Danny and Supreme. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back. Government of Antigua and Barbuda plans to lift most COVID restrictions by year end. Jamie J. Roger of ABS News reports.
It's a race to national immunity. That's 80% of the population having immune systems primed to fight off COVID-19. Now, Prime Minister Barn has set the end of the year as a major juncture in the race. He says by then, the government intends to remove the state of emergency, curfew, and many other restrictions it imposed to curb the coronavirus' spread.
If we, let's say, only get 60% of the population vaccinated or 70%, and we decide to drop those restrictions, it means, therefore, that individuals will become exposed, those unvaccinated persons.
He says people need to take their vaccines soon to ensure they're fully vaccinated when the measures are lifted.
What I want to flag here is that those who will be taking those vaccine types that will require a few weeks to get the second dose, they have to be careful that by the time we drop these restrictions, that they do not find themselves unvaccinated and having an exposure of several weeks or a couple of months before they get the second vaccination. Because technically speaking, you're not vaccinated unless you have both vaccinations.
Many businesses have suffered under the pandemic since the restrictions. For example, the curfew limits how long they can conduct their operations. Prime Minister Brown, who's also the finance minister, says the pandemic has strained the country's economy, and it's time for the government to address the fallout.
Those who may want to suggest that, it may be irresponsible for us to do so, well, you know what? Our people would have had several months to get vaccinated. So by then, whomever, is not vaccinated by then would have taken a conscious decision not to get vaccinated. And, if the unfortunate happens and they get ill or they die, that's a choice that they would have made.
Jamie J. Rocher, ABS News.
Food prices are higher than they've ever been in Trinidad and Tobago. The central bank has reported that inflation jumped from 3.2% to 4.9% over a 6-month period. Some players in the industry say there is nothing that can be done on their part, but they do have ideas to help ease the burden on consumers from the government's end. TV6's Alicia Boucher has the details.
President of the Supermarket Association, Rajiv Dipti, says the increase in freight costs remains a major part of the problem, as shipping moved from around $3,500 per container pre-COVID to between $15,000 and $17,000 presently.
That's regardless of what's in the container. That's the cost to ship the goods. And that is something that is quite nerve-wracking, because how do you tell an importer of goods to absorb that?
According to the association, when the cost of operation is taken into consideration, profit margins for supermarkets are small and are dependent on a volume game. Deputy believes import substitution has to be a priority going forward, in addition to improving the forex situation. The value chain of supply to meet demand is a long one. That's according to the Food Distributors Association, which says after items pass through this chain from international territories to TNT, the markup is generally unavoidable.
Their prices are escalating. I mean, we have gotten price increases on certain products twice in the past 3 months. And as I say, this then multiplies as you go along the value chain. So the consumer in Trinidad is under a lot of pressure.
With inflation now at 4.9%, Michael Schwell says stability is needed in the business sector, and he wants to see a plan put in place for COVID-19 recovery in the upcoming budget.
I would like the government to seriously consider doing what Guyana did. They are charging duty based on last year's 2020 freight rates.
If that is done, Schwell says the government would earn less, but it would take some of the weight off the backs of consumers in terms of food prices. He is also complaining about the difficulty in clearing goods at the port by customs and excise, saying it can take up to 7 days, amid what is already a bureaucratic process.
Go to the bank, collect a draft, go and drop it back by your broker, who then has to drop the draft back to customs.
Distributors say it leaves much to be desired when compared to simply doing wire transfers to their suppliers around the world. Meanwhile, the Supermarket Association says if the government is looking at another increase of the minimum wage against the backdrop of the higher cost of living and inflation, it can exacerbate the situation with food prices. Both associations believe more has to be done in the area of helping local farmers reach levels where they can expand and access more loans and funding. It is being suggested that 25-year land leases from the government can be a base for this. Alicia Boucher, TV6 News.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
A Jamaican overseas is urging locals to verify the information written on their vaccination cards before leaving the vaccination center. She has fallen victim to a major error, which has caused her to limit her movements until it's addressed. More in this TVJ News report.
And a Jamaican overseas is urging locals to verify the information written on their vaccination card before leaving the center. She has fallen victim to a major error, which has caused her to limit her movement until it's addressed. More in this report.
Camille Morgan, a Jamaican living in the Netherlands, got the shock of her life when she was denied a digital code because the information on her vaccination card was incorrect. The code allows her access, while in the country, to certain indoor spaces. It's one of the measures in the Netherlands to contain the spread of COVID-19.
When they evaluated that, they said, well, this doesn't indicate to us that you've received a vaccine that's approved, right? Because nothing on there says, first of all, nothing on my vaccine certificate at all says that I've gotten the AstraZeneca vaccine. And then with respect to my second dose, it says that the manufacturer is COVAX Sweden, when that is in fact not a manufacturer of a vaccine. So essentially, the documentation I produced wasn't sufficient for me to get a QR code.
The woman revealed that she was vaccinated at the Manchester High School in Jamaica. However, she didn't closely evaluate her card. She now wonders about other Jamaicans who may be in a similar position. TVJ News contacted the Health Ministry about the mishap. We were directed to the Regional Health Authority in the parish where the vaccine was administered. We were, however, unsuccessful in our attempt for a response. The latest incident raises fresh questions about whether Jamaica's vaccination program can stand up to scrutiny in other countries. The government has been adamant that the program is solid.
We do have a database of all persons who have been vaccinated legitimately, and as a consequence can validate or verify or cross-check to see if someone with a card is in fact vaccinated.
In the meantime, as Ms. Morgan awaits a resolve, she's urging Jamaicans to check their vaccination cards.
It's just one of those things that you don't even think about checking in the moment. You know, you're just like, these people know what they're doing, and you're just so happy to get vaccinated that you just take your card and go home. You know, so like I checked my name for sure. But that's about it, you know. I never really look at the information that's there to make sure that everything is accurately reflected until I was required to do so.
Javon Keys, TVJ News.
The Bahamas Prisons Commissioner has been sent on administrative leave, and the Minister of National Security, Wayne Monroe QC, says removal is not political. Theo Seeley of Eyewitness News has more.
Prison Commissioner Charles Murphy has been sent home on administrative leave. The National Security Minister Wayne Monroe says the move was taken after it was found that he was allegedly in gross negligence of his carriage of duty. The biggest concern for the state? Murphy allegedly quarantined COVID-positive inmates with those who were negative, and according to Monroe, that won't be tolerated.
Fooling around with people's liberty is serious business. Interfering with the liberty of a subject is serious business. Anything that impacts it being done incorrectly must be investigated.
There was a court order handed down that called for the COVID-positive inmate to be released for medical care and to be quarantined separate and apart from other prisoners. This did not happen.
It is not something that anyone can take lightly. It's very serious business, and it's something that if there is a default of it, must be seriously investigated, because as I indicated, there are potential consequences up to and including criminal consequences at the extreme, gross negligence, manslaughter if somebody dies because of a breach of duty.
And that's Monroe's reasoning as to why Murphy was asked to take immediate leave while the matter is investigated. But there are some who say the move was a political one, as it seemingly poses a conflict of interest. Here's why. In Monroe's private practice as a lawyer, before being elected to government and appointed to cabinet, his law firm represented the now acting commissioner in a litigation against the government. When Murphy was sent home yesterday, Claire was appointed to fill in. Monroe claims that wasn't his call.
Yesterday, the Commissioner of Corrections was sent on administrative leave. I can't do that. The Permanent Secretary has to do that. The law is the law. My bias is towards the law. There's nothing I can do in a case that actually affects a case that I had carriage of. I can't appoint a new Commissioner of Corrections because that's not a power that resides in the minister.
Monroe says if the matter escalates, it will no longer be investigated internally, but an independent body will be called in to do so. That entity will then render a report that will be acted upon. Theo Seeley, Eyewitness News.
Did you know that your friends and family can now shop at the Food Fair from anywhere in the world, and you can receive here in Grenada? The Food Fair and GrenadaMarket.com now makes it possible through secure online shopping and personalized customer service. Simply send your loved ones a list of your preferred items or let them fill an online basket, and the items will be available for pickup or delivery. Visit GrenadaMarket.com or thefoodfair.gd today for more details. The new norm. Spread the news.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.